Jesus said, you're the salt. You're not only to serve, but you're going to be held accountable for what you did in earth. I'm talking to followers. I'm talking to those that you've told everybody you're a Christian. You've told them where you go to church. You've told them you believe in God. You told them you believe in Jesus. That's who I'm talking to, because that's who Jesus said you're supposed to be, the salt. And if you're going to be salt, you're going to be held accountable, not just to God, but you're the salt of the earth, which means you're also accountable to man. Let me say that again, because I appreciate the 2 amens, but let me say it one more time. You're not only accountable to God, but you're the salt in the earth, the salt of the earth. You're accountable to man for your actions as salt. Now, accountability is not popular, especially in the church world, especially in the Christian world. We don't like to be held accountable. We don't like the preacher stepping on our toes. We don't want anybody calling us down. We don't want anybody calling us out, because we don't like to be accountable. We come up with phrases like this: only God can judge me. Only God can judge me. Well, let me say this tongue in cheek, that ought to scare the hell out of you. If only God can judge you, that ought to scare the hell out of you. For the simple fact, you can't lie to God. You can't hide from God. God knows exactly everything about you. You can lie to the preacher. You can lie to somebody else. You can even lie to your spouse and your children. But I want to say to you, you cannot lie to Almighty God. So if you're going to say, I'm not accountable to anybody but God, that ought to scare you into walking right and being the salt you're supposed to be. Growth is impossible without accountability. Growth is impossible without accountability. This is the second week in February. Statistics say this is when everybody stops their New Year's resolution. When you make a New Year's resolution, they say by the second week of February, you have already quit. You've already stopped your New Year's resolution by the second week in February. Unless you have an accountability partner. And if you have an accountability partner, statistics say that you're 80% more likely to keep going and succeed in your resolutions if you're accountable to somebody else other than yourself. If you're working out at the gym, I'm going to lose some weight, I'm going to pump some iron, I'm going to get healthy. If you try to do it by yourself, there's only 20% that'll make it by yourself. But if you'll include one other person and you'll be accountable to them for working out and eating right and doing right, if you'll be accountable to them, the statistic goes up to 80% chance of success. You're 4 times more successful if you're accountable to somebody. I know we're talking about the gym and working out and all this, but that also applies in the church and in the spiritual realm. If you know I've got to give an account, if you know I've got an answer for my attendance, I've got an answer for my Bible reading, I've got an answer for my tardiness, I've got an answer for my attitude, I got an answer for my gossip. If you know you're accountable, you're more likely to step it up and be successful. Well, you ought to just leave me alone. It's between me and God. No, it's not. He said you're salt in the earth. If it's just between you and God, He took you on to heaven. Then you'd been salt up in heaven. But Jesus said, look here, boys, I'm not always going to be around. You're going to have to be me down there. You're going to have to show them what I am. You're going to be representative of me down in the earth. And boys, there's 12 of you. You're accountable to each other. You need to watch each other's back. I'm introduction. I'll get to my points in a minute. If there's no one to be accountable to, if there's no one to question you, if there's no one to challenge you, and if there's no one to hold you accountable for your own actions, you will never mature to the level God expects you to mature to.